Hi, welcome to the Do You Know series presented by ABC Office. I want to thank those joining us from online and those of you that are here in our showroom. Thank you for showing up. My name is Cynthia Painter and I will be discussing coil binding machine. The advantages of coil binding is that you get more of a professional look. Your pages actually lay flat. The coils themselves are flexible and they are pretty durable. Here's an example of what an actual coil it looks like. As you can see, it is very flexible and they are quite durable. And then I wanted to show you kind of what the end product of a spiral binding booklet would look like. So you've got your spiral, your covers, and then as you can see, if you actually were to lay this down on a table, it is actually does lay flat, which makes it easier to, if you have to write, make notes, or do anything else on your booklets. So now I want to go ahead and move on and explain the differences between the two types of coil that you can get. There is a 4-to-1 and there is a 5-to-1. The 4-to-1 is it's 4 punch holes per inch, and the 5-to-1 is 5 punch holes per inch. And you can purchase several different types of machines. You've got a manual one or an electric. So for example, this one here is a manual punch and a manual bind. And then here we have a manual punch but an electric bind. This is a coil crimper, but we'll get to that one just a little bit later. And then we do have combo machines that will do the 4-to-1 and 5-to-1 as one machine, or you have the comb and wire that are combinations. And then we have machines that have interchangeable dies. Now the interchangeable dies it gives you the option of doing coil, 4-to-1, 5-to-1, wire, comb, by removing the actual punch die itself that punches the paper. This gives you the flexibility of being able to punch just about anything that you need. Oh, give me just one second. I got a question in the audience.
Can you punch cardstock?
The question was, can you punch cardstock? Yes, you can punch cardstock. Any type of cardstock, poly covers, or chipboard. So I don't have any cardstock here, but this is an example of a poly cover. This one happens to be a clear cover. This is a poly cover that we actually have in green. But we do have other colors available. Next thing I want to talk about is the disengaging dies. As you can see, this machine has 5 disengaging dies, and this one actually is a complete disengaging, has a complete disengaging dies. What disengaging dies does is if you actually pull out the pin, it actually stops the punch pin from punching through the actual paper. If you didn't have it and did not have it lined up correctly, what would happen is you would get a half punch at the edge of your paper. So for example, here's where we took that punch out and to show that the disengaging where it didn't punch through the actual paper. So, okay, so what I want to do is take a few sheets and show you what we're going to do. We're going to actually pull the disengaging out. This is your side guide, so that you want to line up your side guide with the paper size that you are doing and for the holes. That way, when you are doing a book, you can constantly just keep putting the paper in and then go ahead and punch. And then as you can see, as we take this out, by pulling the disengaging die, you don't have the extra little punch right here, and it's evenly spaced. The other thing that you will find on these machines is the depth guide. Most depth guides are typically sit on the sides of the machines. This one's on this side, this one's on this side. And what the depth guide really is what it does is it allows you to punch further down into the page or closer to the edge. So if you're doing a larger book, you're going to want to punch a little further down in, and if you're doing thinner, to the top. That way when you actually do open it up, it will lay flat and you can flip through it easier, and it doesn't tear. So,
Excuse me, I have a question.
oh, I've got another question from the audience.
Will it do longer than 8.5 by 11, like legal size, or if you were to punch,
The question was, could they punch longer size, larger, like legal size paper? And yes, you actually can, depending on the actual machine itself. The ones that actually have, you can come closer, what we consider are open-ended, means that you can actually punch larger than what the machine is. And then what you would have to do is flip the page over, line up the holes to what you did punch to be able to punch the balance of it. So you can actually punch bigger paper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you on coiling. So you take your coil. All coil binding machines, you have to start the coil. You want to at least run it through about 3 or 4 times. So basically you're just going to poke it through and just run it a few times to get it started. So on a manual bind, you're going to lay the paper down, and then with your hand you're going to roll the spiral, and that's what threads it through. On an electric binding machine, what you want to do is you're going to turn the roller on, hold your paper, and then the roller's going to spin it and thread it through. Then the other machine that I want to talk about was a coil crimper. This is an electric one. When you get to the end of what you're binding, you have to crimp the coil. You can use a manual crimper, and this is what the crimped part looks like, and this is what prevents the spiral from twisting in and out once your report is done. So you can use a hand crimper and crimp this, or you can use this one here that's an electric one, and it also does the electric coil, the binding also. So if you have 2 people, if you've got a deadline, you can have one person punching the papers and another person actually binding the machine. So right here you can do both the 5-to-1 and 4-to-1 on this machine. Your adjustments here is basically what you're going to do is line up what the millimeter is of the coil that you're doing, and then put the paper against the rollers, and you have a foot pedal, and that will just feed it through. As you can see there. And then you're going to flip a switch to do the crimpers. And so what you want to do is just put the coil in the little slot, and you step on the foot pedal and it will crimp it. So you just turn it over, do the same thing on this side, and there you go. And now you've got a completed book. Now another thing I wanted to show that goes really, really good with binding machines is I'm gonna talk about, is the paper, our paper jogger. If you, like most people, pull paper off of a printer and you want to do a book, it's kind of hard to sit there and try and put it together. But if you actually stick it in our jogger and turn it on, it just takes a couple seconds and you've got a nice, perfect, clean stack to start making books. If any of you have any other questions or want to schedule a more training, one-on-one training, you can call us at 1-800-658-8788. You can email any one of our sales associates at sales@abcoffice.com. And all of these machines and supplies are on our website at abcoffice.com. Thank you for joining me today on coil binding. If you will join us next week, we're going to be discussing shrink wrap. Thanks and have a great day.